and to the game. So that was a real expense. Allen Iverson changed that culture, but we had a dress code when I came.
Let's dive into some wild stories of NBA players who let their relationships with women completely ruin their bank accounts. You know the drill. A few bad decisions, some questionable life choices, and suddenly these players are going from rags to riches to rags again. We're talking about players who were living the dream, million-dollar contracts, luxury cars and mansions, only for their bank accounts to take a serious hit thanks to the women in their lives. Let's break down the stories of these NBA stars whose financial decisions were impacted by more than just bad investments. We're about to explore how women, and the drama that comes with them, took these ballers from champions to broke in no time. Let's get into it.
I'm in the back. It's like during the game, somebody's like, yo, come in the back, come in the training room. I go in the training room. Nova dead, bro. I said, what you mean?
1. Antoine Walker, $18 million down the drain.
So I'm looking at all this stuff. That's like, man, when I get it, I'm doing that. So when I came in where I spent a lot of money, I had fetishes.
First up, we've got Antoine Walker, the former NBA All-Star, who ended up losing $18 million. Yeah, you heard that right. $18 million. Now, Antoine didn't lose it all to one woman, but the lifestyle that came with women and the flashy things they demanded definitely contributed.
Media.
Bleeding right now.
I didn't really get a chance to really explain my story. And it was something that was new that I was going through. So at the same time that this process was going through over the 3-month period,
Walker was an NBA sensation, rising from humble beginnings to superstardom. He made an immediate impact on the court with the Boston Celtics, and by 2002, he helped lead the team to the Eastern Conference Finals. This man was living large, indulging in lavish cars, jewelry, and flashy homes. He even had a thing for exotic cars, dropping money like it was nothing. And let's not forget the women. Walker had a weakness for beautiful women, and it was this that led to his downfall.
So a lot of high-end things. I was into designer watches, Rolexes, timeless pieces that you can have forever. So I was into those type of things.
For 10 years, Walker was involved with Evelyn Lozada, a relationship that ended in disaster. They lived a life of excess, and Antoine was more than generous with his money, often treating it like a personal ATM for friends and family. However, Walker admitted that he was trying to live like Jay-Z and Diddy, but unlike those moguls, he didn't really know how to manage his money.
King had the jackets, they had the Nikes, the Dunks. You know what I'm saying?
Jackets them Letterman jackets, King had.
Hey, listen.
Straight up.
As his spending habits escalated, the Great Recession of 2007 to 2009 hit, and Walker's investments started to crumble. His real estate ventures, which he thought would provide a steady stream of income, collapsed when the market crashed. That was the moment when Walker had to sell his championship ring just to make ends meet. Imagine having to sell a $21,500 ring after winning the NBA championship with the Miami Heat. That's the price of living life a little too fast, fueled by women and lavish lifestyles.
Well, it's different. You don't necessarily lose all you've earned. What ends up happening is that, you create a lifestyle for yourself in which you live in a certain way.
2. Larry Johnson, $60 million and 5 kids with 4 women.
But at that time,
You set the standard.
there. Michael, go do your thing, bro. Do your thing. Don't worry about it.
Next on the list is Larry Johnson, who went from being one of the NBA's most promising players to filing for bankruptcy. $60 million in career earnings, and yet he couldn't hold on to it. What went wrong? Well, 5 kids from 4 different women certainly didn't help.
Yo, this is LJ, bro.
God damn it. I ain't never been
Cut
questioned.
it out. I ain't got to do.
Larry was an absolute beast on the court. He was drafted first overall by the Charlotte Hornets in 1991 and quickly established himself as one of the league's premier forwards. But once the money started rolling in, so did the bad decisions. Johnson was living a lavish lifestyle, splurging on luxury cars, designer clothes, and parties. However, it wasn't just his extravagant spending that caused his downfall, it was also his complicated personal life. Multiple women, multiple children, and the child support payments that followed drained his finances.
I mean, it makes you feel good. I mean, if we took it to another level, man, then UCAS is taking it to another level. So I'm gonna give you flowers while you're here, man, and thank you for having me on. New York, thank you for coming.
By 2015, Larry Johnson filed for bankruptcy, admitting he owed over $120,000 in child support. He had squandered his wealth on an unsustainable lifestyle and his personal drama. It's the classic story of an NBA star who didn't know how to manage his money once the spotlight dimmed.
He was my coach, and he was everybody's coach. He was a basketball. He coached at about 5 high schools in Dallas, Texas. He coached at all black high schools in Dallas, Texas. Alex Mud Gillen. And if you was going anywhere, like if you were going to Miami to play football, we got some dudes from Dallas Texas went to Miami to play football.
3. Dennis Rodman, the financial advisor.
Off to make it like Dave and Buster's or some stuff like that. So it's like, but it's like you couldn't. Back like I said, we couldn't afford anything like that. So I had to go.
Who ruined it all now? If you've ever thought about Dennis Rodman and his wild lifestyle, you probably didn't think it would come down to a financial advisor costing him his fortune. But that's exactly what happened. Rodman, known for his unmatched rebounding skills and eccentric personality, was living the high life during his NBA career with the Chicago Bulls and later the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah. At the W Hotel. It's like, oh man, those are good old days, huh?
Rodman raked in the money, endorsement deals, sponsorships, and his insane on-court skills made him one of the highest-paid athletes of his time. But here's where things went wrong. Dennis trusted the wrong people. His financial advisor, Peggy Ann Fulford, played the game of deception, convincing Rodman and other athletes that she was there to secure their futures.
And I had a press conference with that. I said, John, realize one thing? I'm better than you. You know that, right? I'm better than you.
Turns out, she wasn't securing anyone's future except her own. Peggy Ann embezzled millions from Rodman, diverting funds into personal accounts and using his money for her own gain. By 2016, Peggy Ann was arrested, and Rodman was left to pick up the pieces. He was drained financially, and it was the women in his life, along with some shady business decisions, that brought him down.
And I read the book. I remember I read the book when it first came out. It was a New York Times bestseller. I mean, everyone was reading it. And I remember in the book, you said something interesting. You said, I'm not straight, I'm not gay, but I'm open to things, but I haven't actually messed around with any men at this point in my life, but I am open. So can you sort of explain that?
I could go in details, but no, it's just more like...
4. Eddie Curry, the tragic loss and financial ruin.
Like, that's crazy. My mother was the other woman, and we were the other kids, and I didn't know that. Like, I literally went over my grandmother's house, my dad's mom's house.
Eddie Curry's life was a series of unfortunate events. Known for his time with the Chicago Bulls, Eddie had a promising career ahead of him. But in 2009, tragedy struck when his ex-girlfriend and their 10-month-old daughter were tragically murdered. This sent Eddie into a deep spiral of emotional grief. But what's crazy is that Eddie had already been facing financial struggles before the tragedy.
I mean, there's so many just examples in your life that you like, this money is not important. I experienced you.
Despite earning millions of dollars in his career, Curry was facing a foreclosure on his home in 2009, and his finances were in disarray. Curry had been involved in a string of bad investments and had gotten too caught up in extravagant spending. To make things worse, he was also dealing with cheating allegations. When it rains, it pours, and Eddie Curry's financial world came crashing down. He eventually had to file for bankruptcy, marking the end of a once promising career and a series of costly personal mistakes.
Sick and no money being able to fix that. You know, I experienced losing a daughter and no money bringing her back, bro. It's like, What, you can pay for a nice funeral?
5. Sean Kemp, 7 kids and 6 baby mamas.
Footwork drills. Dribble the ball left hand, right
How
hand.
tall were you in high school? So freshman year to senior year, how much did you grow?
Man, I started off high school as a freshman. Man, I started off at
Sean Kemp, the legendary 6-time NBA All-Star, was known for his athleticism and explosiveness on the court, but his personal life was anything but smooth. Kemp's financial troubles were tied to his 7 kids from 6 different women, and the hefty child support payments that came with them.
6'7", 6'8".
Okay.
By the time I was a senior, I was 6'10 and a half, almost 6'11". Mm-hmm. Learned how to do everything. Been playing against Alonzo.
Kemp's career started off strong, with his best years coming after joining the Cleveland Cavaliers. However, his personal life took a hit, and his distractions off the court led to a decline in his performance. Kemp was spending big and living large, but when he hit hard times, his lavish lifestyle caught up with him. His battle with drug and alcohol abuse didn't help either.
Rebounding, that's his game.
Mm-hmm. What was Mike like in those finals? Talking just straight about business? What was it like?
And when we played Mike in the finals...
With financial troubles mounting, Kemp faced bankruptcy and struggled to support his large family. After his playing days were over, he made attempts to revive his career, but was never able to recapture the success he once had. The toll his personal choices took on his finances and career was devastating.
We was trying to engage with him a lot, man. We really wanted him...
Physicality.
We wanted physicality. We wanted to... we was trying to test him, but he wasn't...
6. Kenny Anderson, The Price of an Extravagant Life.
As a small audience with his willingness to reveal for the first time a dark part of his childhood.
You've got more candor, a little bit more reflective than we're used to seeing in a retired pro athlete.
Kenny Anderson, once a promising point guard with the New Jersey Nets, was living the dream with a $63 million career earnings. But what happened? How did he go from that to bankruptcy? Well, Anderson, like many NBA stars, had a weakness for luxury and extravagance.
Came up with the idea of us doing penis monologues. It was a good idea, but at the same time, I had to think about it. I had to say, hey, am I ready to go into this world? When I sat down and was talking about my life.
Anderson's downfall started with his lavish spending habits, which included cars, mansions, and exotic women. But it wasn't just about the lifestyle. Anderson's poor financial management and lack of financial literacy also contributed. By the time Anderson retired, he had filed for bankruptcy and found himself deeply in debt.
Then we moved to Left Rack City at like 9. That's when we got out of there at 9. And just was, it happened again, in my walks of life,
The reality check came when he admitted in an interview with Forbes that he had mismanaged his finances, thinking that his wealth would last forever. But as we know, nothing lasts forever. And Anderson's financial troubles were a wake-up call to other athletes about the importance of managing their money.
Make it clear that it wasn't no one in my high school, Archbishop Malloy, it wasn't Ernie Leutch, it wasn't Lou Dalmano. I paid for Gauchos and I played for Riverside, so it wasn't none of them,
But it was someone that was entrusted.
He was into the coaching world, yeah.
7. Darius Miles, From Wealth to Bankruptcy.
I'm trying to time his shot. And it wasn't like he was killing me with moves. He would hit me with the free throw line jumper, and he would jump hooking my ass to death.
Darius Miles was a basketball prodigy who went from high school to the NBA in a flash, becoming the 3rd overall pick in the 2000 NBA draft. Miles had the world at his feet, earning over $61 million in salary. But despite all that money, he blew it all.
Like just jump hook over the left shoulder, jump hook. He had about 36 and 12. Like I remember I felt kind of defeated after that because I ain't really ran into nobody.
Miles's downfall began with bad investments and an expensive lifestyle. But it wasn't just that. Real estate deals, along with a group investment that included rapper Nelly and former NFL star Marshall Faulk, went sour. Miles lost a significant amount of money in a real estate deal in St. Louis, and his personal issues, like the tragic death of his mother, only made things worse. Miles eventually filed for bankruptcy in 2016, proving that even young millionaires can easily lose it all if they don't manage their finances wisely.
Me of the men's game, or I can compare a certain player game to another certain player. Like, so I always liked it, but I kind of wish they go 9-5, maybe 9. You'll probably see more highlights. You'll probably see
8. Lamar Odom. $114 million gone. How?
A lot. But that, I mean, to put a number on it, that'd be really narcissistic.
How long do you think you were able to be faithful?
Maybe months at a time. My marriage, I was faithful for first couple of years.
And lastly, we can't forget Lamar Odom, whose rise and fall was one of the most dramatic in NBA history. Lamar made over $114 million in his career. But how did he lose it all? Lamar's story is a mix of bad decisions, personal battles, and infidelity. His marriage to Khloe Kardashian was a public spectacle, and unfortunately, the pressure of that relationship led to Lamar's financial and personal destruction.
No, there's no more coke in my system.
How do I know you're telling the truth now?
All you can do is believe me, and if you don't, then there's nothing I can do.
You do smoke weed still?
Yeah, helps cool me down.
When was the last time you smoked weed?
Yesterday.
With addiction and extravagant spending, Lamar found himself spiraling out of control. He was bailed out by Kobe Bryant at one point to pay off gambling debts, but by the time Lamar was finished with his personal and financial struggles, his $114 million was gone. It's a cautionary tale of how fame, women, and bad habits can make you lose everything you've worked for.
You know.
What happened to your heart that day?
Well, it got heavy, and that's when I just kind of just said, like, school, really. That was like one of the biggest mistakes in my life.
That you didn't do drugs that night?
Somebody may just slip me something. Happens all the time.
But you were drinking?
I was drinking.
Conscious of that?
Yeah, I was drinking.
Yeah.
There you have it. NBA players who let women, and their own bad decisions, ruin their bank accounts. It's a pattern that's all too familiar in the sports world. Millions of dollars, lavish lifestyles, and questionable choices led to these players losing everything. So, what do you think? Do you think these players could have avoided this fate if they'd just made better choices? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Celeb Titbits for more wild stories from the NBA and beyond. These players may have lost it all, but we're here to make sure you know the tea.